Hi guys, it's Grace,
It's Loraya. Hi, guys.
and we are the Indigos. So we've been talking about the importance of recognizing positive and negative energies and how to do that. So today's topic is about recognizing how to spot positive and negative energy.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many different ways you can do that. For me personally, I think I identify with negative energy by verbal speaking. I feel like just being able to hear people talk, there's a vibration just in a tone, structure of sentences, things like that. There's so many different ways you can convey something. And I find the positive and negative by how someone's delivering whatever they're saying, because sometimes people aren't aware of that. So a lot of times you'll get a natural organic energy within it. For me, there's a huge difference in someone that's optimistic opposed to pessimistic about a situation, and you can tell by the words they use, how they say them. Certain words have a natural negative tone, certain words have a positive ring, and I think that for me personally, that's one way that I can decipher the two that make it very black and white. I try, when it comes to energy, to create black and white understandings of things so that it doesn't become as complicated. What about you, Grace? Is there a specific thing that you recognize verbally when someone's speaking to you, or tone, or?
Yeah, I think it's in tone. I think it's in the way they execute words. I feel like I can spot negative and positive that make the difference, differentiate the difference between the two by just feeling the person and just kind of the tone they set their words in, the attitude they execute their words in, the feeling you get when somebody is talking to you, or their mannerisms. That's a good way to start to be able to tap into how to recognize positive and negative energy. That's one good way. There's many other ways as well, but we just thought that it would be a good idea.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No,
No, I know, I was just agreeing.
Say that again.
I know, I was just agreeing with you, and I also wanted to state that passive aggression and certain things that are specifically created to deceive you are exempt from our examples. We're talking about just very organic speaking in conversations, because sometimes people don't even realize they're negative or positive. That's why when it comes to your life, you have to kind of look at certain situations. Maybe in a dynamic, it could be your parents, where you feel like, okay, why every time I talk to them, I feel something negative. I get off the phone and I'm upset.
Yeah.
I feel drained from a lover. Sometimes when you first recognize that initial energy of positive or negative, because usually you're not neutral about certain things, it's really like one or the other. When you're in those places, recognizing, okay, what is it about the situation? Am I creating a draining dynamic by the energy I'm exuding? Is the person reflecting a certain energy off of me and I'm absorbing it? So first recognizing whatever the energy is that you deal with a person, it, to me at least, is a very great base and foundation to get to the bottom of your dynamic with people, whether they're optimistic, pessimistic. Sometimes you're with really positive people, where I have certain people in my life that when I'm with them, oh my God, you can't tell me I can't conquer the world. Like after I'm with them, because their energy is so uplifting and so inspiring, that I'm like, sometimes you'll subconsciously become drawn to both energies. Some people are addicted to positive energy because they needed to heal, to elevate. Some people are addicted to negative energy because that becomes their comfort zone, because they know more of that than positive energy. So sometimes when you're in situations that are reoccurring, whether they're relationship dynamic with your parents, it becomes a comfort to be upset or in misery or sad. So you have to recognize certain energies so that you can break cycles, or you can create new cycles within the people that you want to create positive aspects with. Because sometimes when you're in the situation, if you're not sitting back to look at it, you're not going to be able to know what's actually happening from a bird's eye view. And that's the perspective that's outside of your own. But seeing what's happening from a black and white space. What about you, Grace? Have you ever had a situation where you've either been addicted to positive energy, negative energy, where you've wanted to absorb more of one specific energy?
Yeah, I think it's reflective of where I'm at personally with my own energy. I think that we have this natural antenna that is kind of taps into or streams into a certain type of frequency that is similar to ours at the time. So quite often, if I'm feeling, negative about certain things within my life, I might be prone to being more wanting to kind of hear more things that might help with that negativity. But sometimes it can also turn around and actually I start to get into a bad headspace where I'm like being attracted to more of that negative energy. So there's two ways you can go with all of that. Tuning in to negative and positive energy can be a direct reflection of how you're feeling internally. So quite often I have to, if I feel myself getting into a bad way in my thoughts, in my thought process, I have to stop myself from going deeper into that space by trying to stop that energy or trying to deflect that energy and going into another thing where I'm looking for positive notions of how to elevate myself and get me out of that cycle of bad energy. So it's like that cycle continues. If you allow it to continue, you can stop it by also going into a different headspace. But it's all a matter of just being in tune. For me, it's about being in tune to how I'm feeling and how I want to feel more of. And I certainly am attracted to more the positive because ultimately that makes you happier. Everybody wants to be more happier in their lives. However, sometimes people can feel a comfort, a certain weird, obscure comfort with negative cycles because that's what they're used to. They've become used to this kind of negative cycle. So that could be a reflection of their family life, their upbringing, their surroundings. But that's a good way to really identify bad or negative energy and positive energy is how do you feel after you've been around those types of people? How do you feel those situations? How does that make you feel? Do you feel an anger or resentment or a negative kind of connotation to how you're feeling? Or does that feeling, is it more positive? Is it more happier? Is it more joyful? What is it? And that's a good way to identify the difference between negative and positive. So
Absolutely.
I think
And you know what too? I definitely want to add to what you're saying is how you're saying like it's an internal thing. A lot of times, even not only just looking at people and what energy they're bringing to the table, but also looking at, like you were saying, how you feel inside. Being very conscious of what you feel inside. Understand a lot of things will subconsciously come out. That's why you have to redirect your thoughts inside, because naturally, if you have a bad day, you're going to be a little more short-tempered. You're going to be irritated with people. You're going to do certain things that are actually setting the tone for more of the one thing that you probably don't want. So being mindful, like Grace said, I definitely agree with knowing how you feel inside, because remember, internally, it's going to shape everything around you. And I can say, being the opposite, where I had a super rough experiences in life, upbringing, where personally I had a lot of optimism and I wanted a really, really happy, positive environment. So I constantly internally put myself in a state of no matter what was going on, I would always be of light. And eventually it caught up with me where my world shaped into that because it was my natural reaction. So no matter what was going on, how I could have felt in the beginning, I literally turned it around. And I say that in the sense of I could have a horrible day. I just got a $100 parking ticket the other day, right? I'm going into somewhere to grab something. I come back, slap with a parking ticket. That might not be a big deal for certain people, but when you have a positive day and something like that happens, it can put you in a state of frustration. It can put you in a place where it's actually redirecting your entire day just off of the energy, where it becomes a domino effect, where you're actually attracting more negative things. For me, what I did, because it's a natural way to shift things, is acknowledging something else. My natural place went into, I got a parking ticket, but you know what? My car didn't get towed. And that was what I said to myself. Like, oh, it was better to pay this $100 ticket than pay this $500 tow fee. So I said to myself, thank you, God, they did this, but I didn't get this. So I always naturally take myself to the place where it could be worse. Like, I check myself and say, okay, this might not be the greatest situation, but how could it be worse? And then I give myself gratitude within that situation. I'm like, oh, I appreciate it, whatever. Money is meant to be made, spent. It's kind of part of life. So I'm just giving you an example of something I've done naturally in my life because I went through a lot of negative things. So I always put myself in a space. I didn't know at the time. I think I just wanted just a certain amount of light and happiness. So I worked on the inside so that my life, it really does become your perception and you're more aware. And so it becomes something you subconsciously do. Sometimes I think of positive things without even the intention because I've created that for my subconscious. So not just thinking about the people that you're feeling drained or empowered by, but also looking at yourself and what you're projecting, because you have to check yourself first to be able to get to a state where you can get into the dynamics. Because once you get to a place where you're taking negative to positive, then when negative comes at you, your natural response is something positive because you're not even letting that energy absorb because you've already put yourself in a very how do I explain it? Basically, you put yourself in a state of being that's so centered into what you're believing. And it's the same with negativity, because people that are depressed and those type of things, they've centered themselves in negativity. You can be as grounded in your positive as your negative. So remember, like, what you're constantly practicing, it is creating a stability, a go-to for yourself. So first think about yourself and how you deal with things, your natural perspective, and like taking yourself out of it and thinking about literally how you would react to someone else speaking to you or talking in the way that you do. So look at that. That really helps. Go ahead.
Be mindful. I was just going to say, I think it's really important to be really mindful as well. When you do feel yourself getting lower in your vibration, which is the negative energy, try to pull yourself out of it. You know, if you feel like, for example, if there's a whole lot of people around you and all they're doing is bitching and gossiping about other people and you don't feel very good about it, recognize that and move yourself away from that kind of behavior. Move yourself away from that kind of situation. Excuse yourself from the table, or just go into another room and just kind of cleanse yourself and just kind of just sit. Do I feel good about this? And, you know, consciously work it out. Does this make me feel good? Does this make me feel shit? If it makes you feel shit, step away from it, you know, and start to do that kind of processing to be able to
redirect it.
Redirect
like Grace,
it.
Because our approaches are so different in that, where Grace would go recollect herself and come back to the situation. I would look at someone and say, I don't really want to talk bad about people. I'm not interested in this conversation. Can we talk about something a little more positive? Can we talk about where, you know, it's two different ways to deal with it, where I wanted to share, because some people will have Grace's approach where it's like, okay, I'm going to gather myself individually, but I'm just kind of like, you know what, I'm in this situation. I'm going to redirect everyone's energy by verbally speaking up, because sometimes people don't realize they're being negative. And sometimes it actually is effective if you tell people, you know what, let's not talk about gossip. Let's not, you know what, that's their life. Let them deal with what they're dealing with on a positive note, because that's like my go-to. On a positive note, then I say, like, what about this? And I try and redirect things where there's positive things to talk about, because I've been in situations like that where I'm just like, wow, I really have nothing to say because all you guys are doing is talking negative, and that's really not the headspace I'm in, nor do I want to be in or participate. So those are two different ways. And, you know, you guys can let us know if you have what type of approach you guys usually take. And if there's maybe a third or fourth one that we've never tried. I'm always open to social experiments. So
yeah.
right?
I think it's just firstly recognizing, and how to recognize it. So we were just kind of thinking, what is a really practical way of recognizing positive, negative energy? And that is really, how does it make you feel? How do you change the situation? How do you manifest positive, positive energy, positive cycles in your life? How do you deflect negative energy away from you? So these are just kind of quick examples of what we thought would be helpful. So yeah, so if you have any other information that we might like to talk about, or any other topics, I should say, that you'd like us to talk about, please feel free to put some comments there and email us as well. Is there anything else you want to say, Lorraine, on this topic?
No, I think it's awesome. We're going to get into different segments about positive and negative energy, because again, this is an introduction. There's so many things that we're going to talk about, touch bases on. If there's something that you want to know in regards to positive and negative energy, because that's kind of a theme that we kind of started tonight, please let us know specifics, so that we can get into examples, and we can get into things that are a little deeper in the subject. So yeah, I'm excited. Thanks, guys. I'm so happy that we get to share these things with you all, just perspective, and then also learning other people's way of handling things and their perspective of life. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Subscribe to the 1ND1GOS.